afternoon, and this is an amazing platform. We are here today in order to do this workshop, and the topic is very important. Right now, I think across many countries, the challenge is how to answer the talent gap question and what can we do to nurture fintech talent within Asia. My name is Annie Koh. I'm a professor of finance at the Singapore Management University. With me at this workshop, sponsored by AMTD Group, is none other than Professor Timothy Tong. And Timothy is the CEO of AMTD Foundation and also the chairman of the Hong Kong Laureate Forum. And of course, he was past president of a university in Hong Kong. And with me today is Professor Jing Guang Ping, and he is the current president of the Hong Kong Poly University. And we are delighted to be here because all three professors are very much driven and committed to the idea of nurturing people. So 3 Ps, and the 3 Ps will be people as the first P. So I would like to straight away jump in by asking both Professor Tong and Professor Teng, if we were to look at the demand and supply of digital talent, specifically in Hong Kong first, because since this is part of the Hong Kong FinTech Festival, can you tell me, Prof. Tong, what is the current demand scenario for digital talent in Hong Kong?
You want me to start first?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think first of all, we need to realize that FinTech, financial technology, this area is a very new area. It is really the new frontier in the financial world. I think 10, 15 years ago, no one talked about FinTech back then. But in the last several years, because of AI, because of digital technologies, and more financial institutions are looking at applying digital technologies into their businesses. And because this field is so new, the professionals available to work in the banks, in the financial institutions are very, very short in supply. At AMTD, we experienced it ourselves because last year we were one of 8 institutions that were granted virtual bank licenses. And this year, back in June, we started the fully operational. But in that process of setting up a virtual bank, even though there were many challenges we have to overcome, but the single most difficult problem we needed to deal with was to hire enough qualified professionals to work at the bank. And even though we managed to do so, it was not easy. We had to basically recruit very diligently from all sources in order to have the staff that we wanted to have.
Very good.
And of course, recently there were reports as well, right? Michael Page report that indicating that over 90% of the banks are now adopting FinTech to different degrees. And 2/3 of the employers found difficulties in filling the openings that they have. So this gap is real, it is serious.
Very good. And you know, it should be music to the ears of the president of the university, Prof. Teng, because if there's demand for, talent, then universities are in that role, to quickly produce. Can you share with us, Prof. Teng, what are you doing as president of Hong Kong Poly University to try and close that gap? How do you quickly meet the demand from the industry?
Yes, Professor Koh, thank you for your question. Obviously, as Professor Tong has described, there's a big shortage of talents for the FinTech industry. I think it's not only, in Hong Kong. As you know, Hong Kong is becoming much more integrated into the bigger area called the Greater Bay Area. which actually has a population of about 70 million. It's a very big population. And the nearby city Shenzhen is also a financial center, in addition to Hong Kong being a financial center. So the demand is really huge. And in the area of education, Hong Kong, we still have quite a few world-class universities. Shenzhen is working very hard in this area, developing their universities. But I think at this point of time, Hong Kong has a bigger capacity, in training FinTech talents. And therefore, in Hong Kong, the main universities, they all have some, programs for training FinTech talents. Some at the bachelor level, some at the master level. And at Hong Kong PolyU, we are the only university which has a FinTech doctoral program, the Doctor FinTech program. And so this is the first ever program, I was told by my colleagues in the world, the Doctor FinTech program. In addition, we actually, a few years ago, we already started, this a program, a Bachelor of Science program in FinTech, which is now called the FinTech and AI. So in that program, we combine FinTech and AI to train a new type of talents for the Hong Kong and nearby, industries. So we are doing a lot in this area. And in this area also, we AMTD is our very important collaborator, because our D-FinTech program actually is initiated by a research center called the AMTD Center for FinTech, and we have received very significant support from AMTD. So we have a very close collaborative relationship. And the FinTech program, actually, as a D-FinTech program, we admitted the first cohort last year, and we are admitting a new cohort this year. And so these are very senior people in the industry. When we talk about talents training, also we realize that there is a shortage of the trainers, because this is such a new area. You have to find the teachers who can, teach students. It's an interdisciplinary area. So not only that we need people go out to the industry, we also need more people who can join universities to teach the students. So all universities are working hard, and PolyU, I think, is taking a leading role in this area.
Very good. I'm really glad, Prof. Ting, you mentioned that the speed of change is so fast and the demand is so high. So, even if a PhD candidate came out recently, he's already behind in the knowledge. So,
it changes very fast.
Exactly. So how do we constantly keep in touch? And I think the only way to go is to do collaboration, because then you will have industry coming in to help us in terms of the trends and, writing the new material, and then working together with our trainers and our students. So I'm hearing this loud and clear. My next question for you is, we keep thinking about the pipeline and having new students and having new PhDs. What about the existing workers? I think we have so many existing workers in the traditional banks, and they also need to be retrained, right? And we have existing workers who are in sectors that have been disrupted, but they have domain knowledge. They could be in maritime trade, they could be in port, and that is also human capital. So what can we do to retrain and reskill the existing pool of people? Can any one of you?
Yes. So maybe I can start first, because for the bachelor degree programs, we are looking at training new people. But in the university in Hong Kong, including us, we have master's program also. So we have a master program in big data analytics, data science and analytics, and we have a master program in accounting and finance analytics. In this kind of programs, we are training existing people who are already working in their domains. In fact, the FinTech thing, the FinTech development penetrates in many different areas of application. And so many people in various industries will need to be trained or retrained. So the master programs actually, do that sort of job.
Very nice.
And the FinTech program also, normally the students who come into the program are experienced senior professionals. So they will also, learn new things through the FinTech program.
Very good. And
yeah, maybe I can chime in.
Existing partnership programs as well. Maybe you'd like to share with us?
I think President Tang touched on something very important, because the upscaling, upgrading of skills, I think is a key element in meeting the gap that we were talking about.
Yes.
And the collaboration between industries and academic institutions is also very important, because folks in the industries, they come across the problems, they come across the issues, but they may not have all the answers that are needed. So the collaboration between industry and academic institutions is more likely to address the issues much more promptly than otherwise.
Yes.
And in that regard, I think AMTD has been active in setting up training programs for current professionals. And you may recall that almost a year ago, in January of this year, not quite a year, but 10 months ago, you and many of us were in Davos,
yes.
and we signed an MOU with SMU and the Institute of Systems Science at NUS,
right.
and also Xiaomi also participated. So it took two enterprises and two academic entities to come together,
yes.
to create a training program in digital finance leadership. And you are very much involved in it. And this program will be launched very shortly, right? Another program that AMTD set up was with the University of Waterloo, IQ4, the learning platform, and also Singapore FinTech Association. And that focuses on training talents in the cybersecurity area. So I think it takes collaborations of different kinds, different levels, in order to train enough professionals to try to fill the gap. Okay, we still have a long way to go,
yes.
but with partnerships, I think we are more able to produce the kind of professionals that are needed faster rather than later.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I love it because Timothy, you just mentioned the second P. So we were all very concerned about people and how to retool, reskill. And the only way to go forward is partnerships. Okay, but the demand is so high. Singapore is going to come up with 5 digital banking licenses. And while doing one in Hong Kong, you are already saying that, it's how to find that talent. So, my next question for you is, how do we scale? Because every time when people think about scaling, they think about platforms, because platform approach seems to be the way to scale. So, it's great we have partnerships, it's great we have the industry academic collaboration, but can we think of bigger, brighter ideas of how do we scale? How do we make it a self-fulfilling platform where people can come for learning, retooling, and cross-border, and not confined to one country?
Yeah, maybe I'll say a few words first.
Yes.
Indeed, I think in terms of scaling, we must take advantage of the different strengths that we all have, right? Professor Tang mentioned earlier that Polytechnic University is now offering a doctoral program in FinTech. And it's the only one so far in this region, perhaps in the world. And the cohort that they are now recruiting, I certainly hope that there will be students enrolling from regions outside of Hong Kong, as well as students from inside Hong Kong. The program is already ongoing, so take advantage of it. Likewise, other training programs, as they recruit participants, we ought to advertise beyond our own borders so that people from other regions can also participate. That's one way of trying to collaborate beyond our own border and produce more quickly the professionals that we need in the entire region.
Very true. And Prof. Ting, how would you expand the program, you know?
Yeah, in fact, you know, as you know, we are now still in the pandemic. And from January this year, we have been doing online teaching, online delivery of classes, you know. Even at this moment, most of our classes are still delivered online. And this has been, as you know, a very drastic change to the practice of university teaching.
Yes.
And this also has brought to us new opportunities in terms of training talents across border. So I think this is also a very important aspect of digital transformation, you know, which happens in the financial industry, but happens now also so quickly in the educational industry. So I think in the future, we can make much more use of this sort of online delivery of FinTech training programs. And so that we can, you know, they will find it much more acceptable to register for a program far away, you know, and because the program will be delivered to them online. Another thing I think we should have is, if we are going to have a lot of different, types of training programs, there need to be some system of qualification, the professional qualification for the, you know, for the experts, for the specialists in the FinTech area. And PolyU is already working quite closely with this Institute of Financial Technologies, Asia. Yeah. So I think that kind of organization plays a very important role in, you know, making sure that in QA, quality assure, the talent training program, which can then be delivered much more online. We actually at PolyU, you know, in terms of training the existing staff, we have a preparatory course for people who wish to become qualified under the qualification framework of the Institution of Financial Technologists Asia.
I love this, Prof, because then it's about lifelong learning, you know. And
yeah, also lifelong learning is also so important because, as you have pointed out, technologies change very fast. They just have to become, you know, everybody has to become independent as lifelong learner. In addition, as I mentioned, you know, we naturally in Hong Kong, we are well positioned to extend our training programs to the Greater Bay Area, which is of course still across the border.
Yeah, very nice. As a final note to all our audience, if there were no constraints, if you could try different things, what would be one thing that you would love to try in the area of FinTech talent development? What would you think you would like to try that is never done before? It's different. Any ideas?
Right now, the FinTech area is developing very fast, right? We talked about the bankings. We have not even mentioned about insurance. Right? Virtual insurance policy, it has also come into existence. So I think if there's one thing I wish we could do is to instantly recognize all the needs that we face so that we can do our best to come up with programs to train the professionals to meet the needs.
Very good. And for you, Prof. Ting?
I think we've been thinking, you know, in the university after this experience with online delivery of teaching, we've been thinking about making online teaching a much bigger part of our delivery of programs, particularly at master levels. So ideally, I think if you ask me to pick one thing I would like to achieve over the next few years in the training of FinTech talents, I would like to make, for example, one of our programs, the FinTech program, for example, to be an online delivery program. It's not quite the same as the traditional online program where you record all your teaching.
Yes.
That's one version. The other version is you actually have teachers delivering this live, online, and that way you keep the elements of interaction, but you allow the distance to be, overcome in learning. And if we can succeed in this, and then couple it with a professional qualification framework like the Institute for Financial Technologists, and make sure that the training is solid, the qualification is well recognized, then we have a whole system of producing talents for the industry. And that's what I would like to see happen.
Amazing conversation with two wonderful professors here. I think if we were to address the audience, it will be 3 professors here coming up with 3 Ps. We believe strongly in people development. We strongly believe that partnerships is the way to go, but in order to be more effective, more impactful, more relevant, we need platforms. Platforms where there is co-creation, where you could actually address needs and you could actually use qualification and professionalization in order to grow the pool of talent. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed our little 20-minute session of sharing about nurturing FinTech talent in Asia. No longer just Hong Kong or Singapore. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.